Hey guys, thanks for stopping by to watch another video here at All I See Is W, where we talk about stocks, Bitcoin, and finance. In today's video, I wanted to cover the overall Bitcoin market today. We saw some positive upside with price action, miners, MicroStrategy. Even Bitcoin price went up today. I'll go through the overall Bitcoin market updates with fundamental and technical analysis, whether I think Bitcoin, MicroStrategy, and the miners, are they a buy, a sell, or hold? We'll cover recent updates as well with Bitcoin, MicroStrategy, and I'll go through fundamental updates on some top miners that I would like to share with you. Now, if you're new to this channel, I would really appreciate you hitting the like, subscribing for more related content. Most of the viewers, about 20%, are subscribers, so I would really appreciate the support. First off, let's cover the overall updates of Bitcoin. So we saw some nice price action today. It was nice to see Bitcoin price bounce back up yesterday. We saw some uncertainty. It got down below 89,000 and then it just got bought up so quickly. But today it was nice to see that ramp up to mid 97,000. And currently we see price action at around 96, 97,000. So what that meant was upside with the price of MicroStrategy, including the miners. Now let's just take a look at updates with Bitcoin in relation to MicroStrategy and the miners. So where we currently are, just looking at a 1 month perspective, MicroStrategy, we see still down 20%. We know all-time high from last year, 2024, it went up to about 800%, ended the year with a 400% performance gain with MicroStrategy. But just with a 1 month perspective, we see MSTR down by about 19%. We also have big time miners like Riot, CleanSpark, IREN, and Mara. Out of the four miners here, we see Mara taking the biggest hit within the last month, with IREN taking a 20% hit, CleanSpark with a 17% hit. However, Riot from a 1 month perspective is only down by about 7%. But overall, all of these stocks have been underperforming in the 1 month range. Let's take a look at a 3 month scale range here. So we see MSTR as the leading workhorse out of these stocks within the span of 3 months. And you see here Riot leading with number two, 39% upside, Iron 33% upside, and we see just net zero with CleanSpark and Mara. Even though we've seen some heavy fluctuations within the past couple of weeks, I mean, like Mara, you know, uh, just in the month of December, it was like close to $30 and it dropped by about 50%. But when you look at it from a zoomed out perspective, 3 month range, Mara is currently at, net zero here. So you got to factor in that upside with the beginning of November. Of course, we didn't like seeing the downward trajectory in the recent weeks, but I think that what just happened recently, we're going to see that potential V-shape up. So I think with MSTR, if and when these price forecasts start going into effect, for example, if and when Bitcoin price breaks through its all-time high, potentially getting up to about 200K in the year 2025, we can see MSTR even go beyond like $1,000 price range. Riot, where the current price is at like low $12, I could see Riot, CleanSpark, Iron potentially breaking into that $50 range. And Mara, I wouldn't be surprised if it goes 3 to 5x gain, getting up to even to $100. So we know that these stocks have significant bullish runs. It's been dormant, but anytime when there's a Bitcoin bull cycle, there's big, large green candlesticks that can really take off and cause the price action, short squeezing these stocks up to levels we haven't seen before. Now, let's just take a look at just recent updates. So here we have an article, Donald Trump inauguration will feature crypto regulations and technology leaders. So as soon as we have Donald Trump inauguration, which is going to be next week on Monday. He's expected to issue an executive order allowing US banks to hold Bitcoin and other cryptocurrency for clients. So that just tells you that day one, we're going to have news right away on the strategy for how this executive order will come into play, enabling banks and financial institutions to hold Bitcoin along with other cryptocurrency assets. So that just explains why we're seeing a huge hodl with like Bitcoin spot ETF inflows. For example, Vanguard, they created IBIT ETF, and every week they've been just buying up more and more Bitcoin, getting closer to like what MSTR has. But I think with Trump's aim to debank a practice that has limited financial services for crypto related businesses, this is really going to be a paradigm shift where now we're going to see changes in the Treasury Department, Securities and Exchange Commission, and a White House digital assets advisor, all leading towards having a US strategic Bitcoin reserve, really going to change the country's approach to digital asset deregulation and most importantly, improving our economy. And that's really going to allow for the United States to build on its power when it comes to the government and just with military power. Now let's take a look at another article here. Bitcoin spot ETF inflows reached 307 million last week. So all inflows coming in. Where is that coming from? We see diversification from, stock investors from S&P index. They're diversifying into Bitcoin spot ETF inflows. We see so much inflows, especially with like ETFs like BlackRock, IBIT. That's like one of the top 20 ETFs right now when you compare it to the top ETF similar to like VOO, for example. I mean, IBIT led the gain with about 498 million inflows just within 1 week's time frame. So we see a huge inflow surging from the many weeks now, especially after adopting ETFs in the year 2024. And I don't think it's going to stop there. And we saw some really nice price action today with IBIT, for example, increasing. So I think with the birth of ETFs with Bitcoin, that's really going to allow for not only these financial institutions to capitalize on the increase of inflows from investors, but now this creates stability for the Bitcoin commodity where now price volatility won't be extremely volatile as what we saw with Bitcoin before. This stamps and solidifies the credibility of this digital commodity. And I think that with spot ETF inflows, this is going to add value to the public sector as well. So you think about MSTR's HODL, the Bitcoin miners that have a high HODL, they will allow these miners as well as MSTR to capitalize on HODL where they get loan exchange service where they loan out their Bitcoins thinking of it as like a Bitcoin bank. And in exchange from these institutions, they get revenue as a service just because they're loaning out their Bitcoin. So lots of changes now in that the banks are allowed to make money as well, being able to hold Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. Let's take a look at this article here in that Bitcoin bull. Tom Lee sees Bitcoin reaching a high of 250,000 by year end. Yes, while we do have a contrary analysis, assessing that there may be a short-term correction based on technical Fibonacci levels, Bitcoin can potentially get as low as 70,000. But when you look at it through the lens of upside, there's upside getting up to about 250,000 in this year alone. So looking at it from the trade-off of benefits to risk, I think the benefits outweigh the risk. And even if and when Bitcoin has a short-term correction, continuing the dollar cost average, buying in on the discounts, that's really going to allow for you to win in this market. So let's take a look at an article here in that Michael Saylor announces more Bitcoins that they've bought. I mean, they've been just buying every week, and they are leading other like financial institutions. They actually have close to about 40 450,000 Bitcoins. So I think where IBIT stands, they're about like 66% of what MSTR has. So definitely some huge upside here with MSTR buying up more Bitcoin. I think their average cost right now is at around more than 60,000 Bitcoin costs for all of the purchases they've made per Bitcoin. But they recently made another purchase of 1,440 Bitcoins at the price of 96,000. But overall, average cost per Bitcoin they purchased 60,000. That just shows they've been buying Bitcoin for many years now, even before the recent run up in the year 2024. Let's take a look at this update here. So in orange would be ETFs range. We see a huge amount here. In blue would be public companies. So like MSTR would fall under the blue category. Orange would fall under like Vanguard, Fidelity, other companies. So MicroStrategy current state, 450 Bitcoins. That's huge. They are the titan of this community right now. However, you see Mara here, they are a Bitcoin miner. They can actually mine Bitcoin at a fixed cost and buy up Bitcoin, which they did in 2024. And the question is, will Mara catch up to MSTR in that, they ramp up their Bitcoin hodl from like, 45,000 to 100,000. It's very possible in 2025. So it'll be interesting to see how Mara strategizes and announces updates in the coming days, weeks, and months. Riot Platforms is another Bitcoin miner. Current hodl count is 17,722, including what they mine. So definitely another company with huge upside. We saw the technical analysis, current price at around $12, Mara at, $17. I definitely do think huge upside with 3 to 5x potential. HODL factor hasn't been really priced in yet, but I think that with the inauguration update, we're going to see some huge money inflows, short squeeze potential, along with other Bitcoin miners I wanted to cover. With CleanSpark, they reached their 10,000 Bitcoin milestone just recently. They ramped up their hash rate. They have a goal to get to 50 exahash by first half of this year, as well as improving their overall fleet efficiency. So definitely a company with upside, along with IREN as well. Even though their HODL count isn't as big, they are a hybrid company where they make money off of AI cloud-based service. We'll talk about that more, but their overall fleet efficiency, the best in the mining community right now, and they just ramped up their hash rate at a number where they're ranked one in terms of improvement with hash rate and fleet efficiency. Let's take a look at just quickly overall updates that Mara announced with their production data in December. So one of the interesting things is that they were able to produce 890 Bitcoins. So think of it as 28.7 Bitcoins mined per day at that time, with an energized hash rate of 53 exahash end of the year. So think about 2025, what their hash rate will be and their capacity for Bitcoin mining every month. November, they mine 907 Bitcoins. So you see the amount of Bitcoins they mine each month and how that adds to their overall HODL rate. But I definitely think that there's going to be a short squeeze coming up for Mara in the coming days and weeks here. Let's take a look at Riot's announcement with their production data. So they were able to mine 516 Bitcoins in the month of December, an improvement from November. We see overall consistency here. They are working towards ramping up their hash rate. We see hash rate increase in Kentucky. They haven't fully tapped into their Corsicana facility yet. It's still under development, but that's like a 1 gigawatt a hidden gem facility. There's talks about Starboard potentially getting Riot into the HPC AI sector. What we saw with IREN when they announced that news was that it went up by about 40%. So Riot current price at $12. Any updates with HPC AI, this can like easily ramp up to $20 in the near term. But I do see huge upside here, along with their power credits that they accrue from just the operating hash rate and power credits. Let's take a look at CleanSpark here. So huge numbers as well in December. They mined 668 Bitcoins in December, total of mining 7,024 Bitcoins in 2024, a pure Bitcoin miner company. They mined 622 Bitcoins in November, but overall hash rate growth of like 287% with a 33.3% efficiency improvement year over year. Definitely with the high HODL count now in rank number three, over 10,000 Bitcoins on their reserve. I do think because CleanSpark recently just undervalued, taking a huge beating with its share price, we see some potential upsides in the year 2025 with the 3 to 5x potential. And I really like how the company is moving very quickly, getting up to achieving that 50 exahash by mid 2025, really showing their growth strategy, leveraging the convertible note of $650 million, buying back shares, paying off line of credit with Coinbase, and really using those funds to uh, implement their growth strategy to get to 50 exahash by mid 2025. Let's take a look at, the last Bitcoin miner hybrid HPC AI play that I think has huge upside as well, and that's IREN here. So they announced some really good news. They mined 3,984 Bitcoin in 2024. In fact, December, they mined 529 Bitcoins in December with 40 million hardware profit in December with a goal of 50 exahash in the first half of 2025. So some bullish goals for the year, similar to CleanSpark, but they also have AI HPC where they have 1,896 NVIDIA H100, H200 GPUs. They're advancing negotiations with different opportunities in the AI HPC sector. So the revenue for AI cloud service you see here just in the month of December, $0.8 million brought in just based on AI cloud services revenue. But with their operating hash rate in the month of December, 28.1 exahash, you compare that to November, 19.7 exahash, they're just acquiring much more Bitcoin because of that rise in the hash rate. But what's interesting is that their cost to mine, it's like think about less than $35,000 fixed cost to mine Bitcoin. So all of that becomes revenue per Bitcoin. So you see here 98,524 revenue post the costs, which offsets everything. So that's just huge. I think there's so much upside here with Iron, but overall, from a technicals analysis, most of you are wondering, so is now Bitcoin, is it a buy? Is MSTR a buy? Are these miners a better option? So it really depends on your investment strategy, but I do think that there's huge upside on Bitcoin commodity, MicroStrategy, as well as these top Bitcoin miners. So if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to subscribe, like, and leave your comments down below. Thank you.